know that for every Democrat talking point where they talk about the horrible things that this budget's going to do, they talk about Medicaid cuts. Everybody's going to be thrown, according to Democrats, into all these horrible situations. There's only one problem. The word Medicaid is not even in this bill.
They did not say where the $880 billion of cuts from the Energy and Commerce Committee that this document directs. They could not tell you that Medicaid cuts were excluded because they know they have to address Medicaid. They have to cut Medicaid in order to make their math work.
So that's the framing from Republicans and Democrats heading into key votes on a sweeping House budget plan. The proposal contains increases in spending on border security, the military, and to extend tax cuts passed during President Trump's first term. It also includes trillions of dollars in spending cuts, the majority directed at social safety net programs.
So are you solidly a no?
Yeah, they convinced me. I was a lean no until this meeting. Now I'm a no.
This no confirmed.
This is a no.
Why? Why?
They're talking points. Look, these are not something I made up. This is the leadership's talking points. It adds $328 billion to the deficit. It adds $295 billion to the deficit the year after that.
That's the Hill's Mychael Schnell speaking with one of the key players on Capitol Hill this morning, and she joins us live right now from the Capitol. Mychael, what is the latest on what just happened with this procedural vote?
Yeah, hey, Drew. So the House essentially just advanced this GOP budget resolution. They adopted the rule, which sets parameters for debate, opens up debate, and then is going to tee this up for a final vote. So that was adopted along party lines. It advanced, and now is the key moment. Will this budget resolution be adopted when it hits the floor for a full vote of the full chamber? We still don't know the answer to that question. There are at least 4 budget hawk conservatives, Tim Burchett, Thomas Massie, Victoria Sparks, and Warren Davidson, who publicly say that they are against it. I also just heard that Congressman Andy Ogles, a Republican from Tennessee, he is leaning no as well. So as this opposition racks up, it makes it that much harder for Speaker Johnson to get this thing over the finish line. Though I will say the advancement was a good sign for Johnson because that was a key procedural step to get this process moving.
And Mychael, you just spoke with Speaker Johnson as he left that procedural vote. What do you have to say?
Yeah, so we asked him if he's going to be able to pass this thing today, and he said he's still working on it, still working through some concerns that some lawmakers have. And then we asked him, are you planning to potentially change this budget resolution? Because one of the holdouts, Congresswoman Victoria Sparks, a Republican from Indiana, she wants changes to the budget resolution. She wants the level of spending cuts, the minimum number of spending cuts, to be increased. We asked Johnson, are you planning, do you have any intention to potentially change this budget resolution? He said he does not. So Johnson standing firm on the contents and the parameters of this legislation right now. Opening it back up could open another can of worms as you have to deal with that seesaw of balancing all these different requests and demands among different folks in the conference. But it's a significant declaration for Johnson to make, again, as we get close to this really key vote tonight.
And what do we know about the margins here? The conventional thinking is that Johnson could only lose 1 vote, but looking at the tally from just now, it looks like there are some Democrats missing. Is that going to affect what happens in the votes later tonight?
Yeah, that's right. So that's why also these procedural votes are so key and so helpful, because you can see who's actually in the Capitol and who's going to be voting. So you're right. There were 4 Democratic absences. 2 of them were Raul Grijalva, who's been battling an illness in recent months, and Brittany Peterson, who just had a child. Now, that sort of changes the math, because when you have more Democratic absences, it increases that margin that Johnson has to deal with some of these defections. Now, I will note, folks can show up at the Capitol later on. That's entirely possible. So we don't know what the margin will be this evening, but those absences, if they follow through for this evening, that creates more wiggle room for Johnson, and it certainly makes his job a little bit more easier.
Let's talk about what's going on in the Republican conference. There are these 2 batches of Republican holdouts. You have conservatives that say there are not enough spending cuts, people like Thomas Massie, who you talked to earlier. There's also moderates who worry about cuts to social safety net programs like Medicaid. Let's take the conservatives first. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget says the House plan would add up to $4 trillion to the national debt by 2034. Other than Massey, who are the Republicans now threatening to withhold their vote because it doesn't cut enough spending? And what are they saying today?
Yeah, it's those folks that I mentioned before. So it's Thomas Massey, Victoria Spartz, Warren Davidson, and Tim Burchett. And basically their qualms center around this idea of spending and the federal deficit. I just spoke to Congresswoman Victoria Spartz after this afternoon's vote. And I asked her if she's changed her stance, if she's still a no. And she said, yes, she is still a no, again, because the budget resolution has not changed. So these conservatives appear to be very dug in with no intention of changing. I will note Warren Davidson said that he could maybe switch his vote. He saw a path to maybe being a yes if leadership presents him with a plan for how Congress intends to avert a government shutdown in the middle of March. That deadline is March 14th, but we haven't yet seen that plan, and that agreement has so far eluded lawmakers in both parties. So right now, these conservatives appear to be very dug in.
Let's talk about the concerns of moderates. The House plan calls for at least $880 billion in cuts from the Energy and Commerce Committee. That's the committee that oversees Medicaid. Who are the Republicans that are right now threatening a no vote on those grounds, and what are they saying today?
Yeah, so this is a group of moderates, a group of centrists, some folks from some blue states who had expressed these concerns about potential cuts to Medicaid really for a few days, even more than a week now. Those concerns appear to be softening. So, for example, somebody like Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis had been very public and very clear that she was concerned with this budget resolution because of potential cuts to Medicaid. Last night, after emerging from a meeting with Johnson, other members of leadership, and some of these moderates, she said she had moved to a lean yes. And at one point, Malliotakis had told me that she was leaning no. So it appears that these moderates may not be such an issue when the vote comes up tonight. However, there are still some holdouts. Congressman Jeff Van Drew, for example, Republican from New Jersey, he has been concerned about potential cuts to Medicaid. He said he's spoken to Trump about this matter on a number of occasions. So the moderates are certainly still a group to keep an eye on in anticipation of tonight's vote. But again, their opposition appears to be softening.
Do you have any intel on what Johnson is saying to both sides to try to win them over? It seems like he's kind of in a difficult spot here because anything he says to comfort one side could increase uneasiness on the other side.
Yeah, that's right. It's this balancing act, this seesaw, I like to think of it, of Drew, that Johnson has to grapple with, that he's been grappling with his entire speakership. We heard some of the messaging during a press conference this morning with House GOP leadership, Johnson, and House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, underscoring the idea that the legislation that folks are voting on today, the budget resolution, doesn't even actually say the word Medicaid in it. Now, while that may be true, there are still concerns that there could be potential cuts to Medicaid down the road because that budget resolution directs the Energy and Commerce Committee to find at least $880 billion in spending cuts. Energy and Commerce Committee has jurisdiction over Medicaid, and a lot of key lawmakers are saying the only way you can reach that number, that staggering figure, is by significantly altering Medicaid. So leadership is trying to say that this is a procedural vote. There's nothing firm in this resolution. This just kickstarts the process. We're going to have to see if that argument and that message is resonating among some of these holdouts.
All right, hour by hour changes over at the Capitol. Thanks so much for taking some time to chat with us. We'll continue to follow up as this story develops. Mychael Schnell.
Thanks, Drew.
Breaking now. President Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, announcing Tuesday that moving forward, White House officials would take over which outlets are allowed into the press pool. The pool consists of a small group of rotating reporters that travel with and cover the president's daily activities. The pool has traditionally been controlled by the White House Correspondents Association, but the administration is now taking the reins amid an ongoing legal battle with the Associated Press. The wire service was blocked earlier this month over its refusal to use the president's renamed Gulf of America in its style guide. Since then, AP photographers have been banned and journalists have been blocked several more times. The AP sued 3 White House officials last week on First Amendment grounds, saying blocking reporters was a targeted attack on their editorial independence and ability to report on the president. On Monday, a federal judge declined to restore access For the Associated Press, in his opinion, District Judge Trevor McFadden said the AP failed to show a likelihood of success on the merits and said he wanted more information before deciding whether to grant a preliminary injunction. McFadden ordered both sides to present their arguments to him next month. Known only as Data Republican, a data scientist has caught the attention of Elon Musk himself by harnessing the power of AI to help uncover corruption and waste within the government. In a News Nation exclusive, she met with Brian Entin for her first television interview, revealing her connection with Elon Musk and Doge. Take a look.
Big picture, with all the databases you're looking at and taxpayer money, how much do you think is being wasted or stolen?
If I had to guess, I would say it's over 100 billion. But what's more important is what they're doing with that money.
The mythical X account Data Republican, shared over and over again by Elon Musk himself, is a real person, a former programmer, now full-time calling out government waste, like exposing USAID. How did you get the attention of Elon Musk?
Honestly, I don't know. You'll have to ask him, but I'm grateful. One day, I tweeted what everybody should, I just tweeted what I found, and then he tweeted everyone should follow the Data Republican. My jaw dropped to the floor, and I thought, what, is this real life? But I guess tech people find tech people. I want to be clear, I don't communicate directly with Elon. He found me and supports my work. But I have communicated with some people that are involved with Doge just on the side. And I don't want to say much more about that, but I have a working relationship.
She goes by Data and uses AI tools to search public databases for waste and fraud. She's been to DC to meet with Elon Musk's Doge team and publishes all her findings on X and her website. Charity funding, federal grants, non-governmental organizations funded by taxpayers. It's all there. What do you say to people who think that this data, these databases, these numbers have been out there for a long time, that they've been public for a long time, and that it's sort of like a publicity stunt that they're getting all this attention now?
That's just an ignorant assumption. Data does not equal transparency. I am a database expert, a database scientist. I am a kernel engineer, and the numbers do not lie. What I did was I added the index to the book so that people can actually find the awards, what they're looking for. And you have to understand, without AI, this would not be possible because the book is so large, nobody can sit down and read the entire thing.
Her next project could be even bigger, investigating and exposing what she believes are corrupt politicians and judges. She posted this weekend, still working on the People Connection mega project. This will be my first truly financially high-cost initiative, so I need to get it just right.
So my project right now is to work on analyzing connections and relationships between people in the government. Because if you research people long enough, you start to notice that they're all working together. They're all married. They're all in-laws. They know each other. They all sit on the same board for many years. And that's my project, to map those relationships and put it on my website.
She says Democrats and Republicans are both to blame.
I cannot tell you enough how much both are involved. It is everywhere. Now we even have members of Congress. So we have sitting members of Congress that actually sit on the NGOs right now. They vote in Congress for money for themselves, and they sit on the same NGOs that they're voting to get money. It is a huge conflict of interest, and it's buried very deep. The numbers don't lie. This is not a partisan issue, and if the American people understood completely what we're finding, there would be outrage across the board.
Are you ever scared? Because exposing things like that, the ways people are making big money secretly within our government, seems like it could put you at risk.
Oh yes, we had to change the way we live entirely, quickly. But you know, Sometimes God calls you for a mission, and you must answer that call.
News Nation's Brian and Tim, thank you. That's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Drew Petrimoulx. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hill's YouTube channel. And come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.